As you'd expect with wrapping your car bright green, you get asked a few questions. Now, I had a look on YouTube to see if anyone had answered them before, but the majority of videos about vinyl wrapping are basically showing you all of the tips and tricks about how to do it yourself. But what if you're like me and you don't have the time, patience or the skill and you just want to take it somewhere to get it done? You know, let the pros have a go at it. Well, look no further. While it's still all fresh in my head, I thought why not make a video on it myself. I'll be covering things like how do you take care of the wrap, how long does it last, and of course the all important question, how much does something like this cost? So if you're looking to get your car wrapped or you're just nosy and want to find out how much I paid to change my car up from this to this, then grab yourself a cuppa, get sat down and let's get into it. The honeymoon period hasn't quite worn off yet. I still absolutely love this colour, it's immense. Of course, I didn't just wrap the car, I also bought a new set of wheels and a reg to really finish it off, and I've had questions about those too, so I will cover that in the next video. But this one is all about the wrap, and hopefully I'll answer any questions that you might have about it. If you watched my last video, then apologies in advance because there are a couple of little bits and bobs that I'm going to repeat, but I think it's important that I try and cover everything again in this one. Right, let's do it. The first question is the shortest one, but it probably has the longest answer. Why? You know, what is the point of getting your car wrapped? Well, for me, there were a few reasons, but I guess the main one is that it's a cheaper alternative to having it resprayed. If you're like me, you might have just got a little bit bored of the colour that you had before and fancied sprucing it up a bit. I adore this car, and I've got no plans on swapping it, especially with second-hand car prices going mental at the moment, so giving it a full colour change is just a way of keeping myself interested in my own car. Applying a wrap also has the added benefit of protecting your original paintwork. Now, I had a handful of stone chips peppered across the front end of the 140, some of which had taken little nicks out of the paint, which isn't bad for a 4-year-old car, but once you get that extra layer over the top, your paintwork should be protected. If you want to protect your paint but you still want to show it off, you can always use PPF, which is essentially just a transparent wrap. A lot of your expensive supercars with the one-off MSO paint colours get this done because, you know, it costs tens of thousands of pounds to spray your car. But you can pop the PPF on literally anything that you want to. The last reason why you get your car wrapped would be, well, for attention. I mean, personally, I couldn't care less about how many followers or anything that I had, and frankly, I'm a little astonished that anybody other than my mum and dad watch these videos. But I would quite like to do this full time, and I think if wrapping the car kind of accelerates the growth of the channel to the point where I can potentially focus on making videos a bit more, then it's a worthy investment. I can think of a canny few examples of people wrapping their cars for the exact same reason that I did, you know, it's not uncommon. However, it could massively backfire, and you know, I'll end up living on the street because I've spent all my money making my car look like a pack of chewing gum. That leads me nicely on to the next question, what colour is it? Well, it's called Pearl Dark Green by Avery Dennison. You might be looking at the car and thinking, Luke, that ain't green, mate. And I mean, yeah, you're right, it is more turquoise, but it's just because the cameras don't pick it up very well at all. It's a lot darker in person. Speaking of vinyl, you should never cheap out on this stuff. If you've ever ordered some off eBay, you'll have most likely had a disaster trying to wrap something because the quality of it's just awful. Avery Dennison are one of, if not the best supplier in the market for vinyl, and having a quality product to work with makes it so much easier for the professionals to fit. Oracle and 3M are also big name brands that a lot of companies like to use as well, so keep an eye out for people using them. Who wrapped it? Well, for me, it was Wrap Monkey in sunny Sunderland, but if they're too far away for you, all I can suggest is do your research. There are far too many horror stories of companies taking the piss with terrible wrapping jobs, so make sure you check out their reviews, the social media, and if you can, try and get in touch with somebody who's previously had a wrap done there, and just have a chat with them. The last thing you want is to be arguing over shitty work and fighting for a refund. No one wants that, do they? The next question that I've been getting asked is, how did they fit it? Well, first thing they do is clean it within an inch of its life, and that sounds obvious, but you have to make sure there's nothing left on the surfaces that you're going to be wrapping. Bird shit, bugs, or even stuff like waxes and polish. From there they'll start stripping the car down. I opted for a full colour change package, which includes getting all of the sills wrapped, so off came the doors and the boot, and they took off the front quarters and both bumpers as well to make things a bit easier for themselves. This is the bit where I make it sound really easy, even though it definitely isn't. They lay the vinyl over the top of the panel, heating it up as they go, pressing out all the little air pockets, before eventually folding the vinyl around all the different contours and edges of the piece that they're wrapping, and then they cut off the excess material. It's just a breeze, isn't it? Like, why even take it to a shop to get it done? Trust me, I've discredited how hard it actually is with that description. I'm so sorry to anybody who wraps cars for a living. Once all that's done, it's just a case of slicing around all of the gaps, refitting all of the panels and pieces of trim that you removed, and voila! and got yourself a new colour. The paint doesn't have to be in pristine condition, but if there are any defects that are quite noticeable, you will notice them through the wrap even more, especially if you get a metallic or a pearl finish like I've got. How much did I pay for it then? The question that you've all been waiting for. Well, it depends on where you decide to take it and what you want doing. I contacted about 5 companies to get quotes over the phone, and it ranged anywhere from about 5 grand, which is professional respray money, down to about 1200 quid. Wrap Monkey came in pretty reasonable actually at £1,400 for a standard colour change, but because I wanted the full package it was an extra £200 per door, so it worked out to be a nice round 2k. It is a lot of money, but when you look at the detail and the amount of work involved, I actually think it's a bit of a bargain. The last thing you want to do once the car is wrapped is to damage it, so make sure that all the products that you use to wash your car are pH neutral, and just don't get too silly with the jet wash. Basically, you just want to treat it like paint. Microfiber and sheep's wool mitts to wash it, and keep it waxed so it's a hell of a lot easier to clean. But a big no-no is to use any sort of polish, or anything abrasive for that matter on it. Where polish can buff paint up and bring it back to life, you'll actually do the opposite with a wrap and damage it, so stay well clear with a T-cut for God's sake. How long does it last? Well, this really is a case of how often you use your car and how well you look after the wrap. I'm kind of hoping that I get a few years out of it, but ultimately if I'm driving around every day on British roads, especially in the winter, I'm going to be asking a hell of a lot for it to last that long, I reckon. Typically though, I'd say around 3 years, even though I have seen examples where the wrap's lasted for upwards of 7 and it still doesn't show any signs of aging. And yeah, people do look at it. As sad as it sounds, that's kind of what I was after. I wanted to turn people's heads and put a smile on people's faces as well as my own. It's definitely had an impact over on social media, which is a really good tool for getting people to slide over here and watch the videos that I make, meaning that I can make bigger and better things in the future. Hopefully I don't sound like too much of a bell end saying that. I mean, it's all part of a long-term plan at the end of the day to try and get more content out for you guys because I enjoy making these. And finally, the last question is... There's always one, isn't there? But yes, it does. Well, I hope that's answered some of, if not all of the questions that you had about wrapping your car. Drop me a like if you found this useful at all, and if you want to stick around and see more videos like this, you can always subscribe. Leave me a comment with what car you drive and what colour you'd like to wrap it down below, and if you have any more questions, I'll do my best to answer them down there too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!